My name is Thomas Mitchell. I've been a Heritage member for almost all of the 25 years. I joined Heritage when it was just a few months old. How did I learn about Heritage? Well, I never really considered myself a good singer. My brother Vernon had sung with Karen Hall, who was a Heritage member, and Karen had mentioned to Vernon that this new group, the Heritage Signature Chorale, was looking for singers. And my brother Vernon encouraged me to audition. I did audition in front of Stanley. I believed I was a baritone. After I had auditioned, Stanley says, "No, you're a second tenor," and I've been a Heritage second tenor ever since. After a few rehearsals, Dana Anderson and I had a conversation in which Dana asked me what I did for a living. And I told her that I managed an IT organization at NIH. Dana told me that Heritage was looking for someone to keep track of Heritage's income, and she asked me if I would be interested in doing a job. And I said, sure. And I've been doing it ever since. I think, interestingly enough, if Dana had asked me if I would volunteer to do the job, or if Dana had stood up in front of the group and asked for volunteers, I probably would never have agreed. I've never really thought about being a volunteer all of these years. I just have two tasks to perform. I sing and I keep track of the income. On the other hand, I really do like Heritage. It's a really fine and inspirational professional group. We do a lot of different kinds of music. We've sung in 5 different languages. We've done opera, we do classical music, we do spirituals, we do anthems, a little bit of everything. I mean, we've sung backup for jazz singers. You name it, we've probably done it, and I really do enjoy that. It kind of goes along with my former profession, in that when you write computer programs, computers work in binary, and musical notes are the same way. You're either singing the right note or you're not. When you're writing code, you either got it right or you got it wrong. There's no in between. So it falls in line with my background, my training, and my vocation. In my humble opinion, the tenor section is one of the most significant sections in any choral group. When you think about it, tenors are sometimes musically above first sopranos. Sometimes we're with or below first basses. We're also at times singing alto notes. This means that we need to learn our normal treble clef, but also the bass clef, as well as the notes below the staff where the altos hang out. Most HSC tenors are not music majors, and during the course of my 25 years with Heritage, most tenors were not professional singers. Some have sung with college choirs, but most are just church choir singers. But we work hard, and we've been a very cohesive group, and I've been very proud to have been a member of the tenor section all of these many years. My favorite time as a volunteer with Heritage actually occurs during concerts when I am working with other volunteers to help pull off the business side of a concert. You know, we have ticket sales, we have product sales and inventories, and then of course after the concert's over, then there's reconciliation that needs to be done. And I'm always happy when we can get the volunteers back together after the concert and we get through the reconciliation and everything works out the first time, and that makes me happy. As a singer with Heritage, I'm not sure I have any favorite moments, but I certainly have many memorable moments with Heritage. And in no particular order, my first concert that I recall doing, we sang a piece called The Sea Symphony by Ralph Vaughan Williams. It's 123 pages of music that we did mostly from memory. We performed this concert with the Annapolis Chorus and the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra. And although we learned the concert under Stanley's direction, when we performed the concert, it was under the direction of Leslie Dunner. So not only did we have to learn the music, but we also had to learn the subtle differences between the way Stanley conducts and the way Leslie Dunner conducts. A second fond memory was our trip to Paris, France. It was the first time Heritage had traveled to Europe, and it was the first time that I personally had traveled to Europe. And I was really very excited, and we had a great time. We sang for the groundbreaking of the Museum of African American History and Culture. A very memorable occasion. And the fact that Heritage was chosen to do this is in fact something of note. In the audience was former President George W. Bush and also President Barack Obama. We sang our hearts out, and we did very well. And then finally, the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra and Morgan State Choir were going to perform a piece called Porgy and Bess. Now, Porgy and Bess is something that Heritage had done. And the concert was supposed to be performed in February. There was a snowstorm in February, and the concert was canceled, and it was rescheduled for either late June or early July. Somehow, Heritage was selected to do the concert with the Porgy and Bess concert with the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. And I thought, wow, you know, of all of the groups that are available in the Baltimore, Washington area, somebody picked Heritage to sub in for Morgan State. And that definitely was a fond memory. As a volunteer, I think my most challenging event was, I believe it was the 22nd annual concert. At least it was the first concert, and we came back from COVID. And I had been ill, so I wasn't going to be singing in the concert, but I certainly worked the front desk and, you know, work with the ushers and the other volunteers who make the business side of the concert work. So in this particular concert we had, because of the venue, there were two entrances. There was an upstairs entrance and a downstairs entrance. We had a greater reliance of online ticket sales. And then we sold tickets on site. So we had paper tickets And we also had paper tickets that were sold in advance. So we had people selling tickets in 2 different locations. We had people coming in at two different locations. We also had, at that particular time, 2-tiered seating. We had VIP seats and we had regular seats. So the ushers needed to know which patrons went to the VIP seats and which patrons were sent to the regular seats. And what I learned when I got there was that there was no real way to differentiate between the 2 groups, because the only thing that we had was a ticket stub. But we had to collect the ticket stub in order to have an inventory of the number of patrons who showed up at the concert, because that was important for a couple of reasons. So the issues were, how do we differentiate between the VIP and the regular patrons? The people who came in who said that they had electronic tickets, but they didn't print the ticket out, and the people who purchased tickets and either had them in will call or they forgot to bring the ticket with them. And these are all issues that I had to try to help to resolve, or had to try to resolve, not help to resolve. I had to resolve them. You learn to think fast. You learn to think on your feet, but you also learn that while you think you're prepared for every eventuality, you're really not. Bottom line is that you have to be able to problem solve in real time in order to make things work. My wife Barbara also sings with Heritage, but she hasn't been singing with Heritage as long as I have. Back in 2013, when Heritage went to Paris, Barbara traveled with me as my guest. She was not a Heritage member at the time. Miriam Dixon and Barbara kind of hit it off on that particular trip. And Miriam encouraged Barbara to attend choir rehearsals while we were in Paris. Dr. Andre Thomas was the conductor for that particular concert in Paris. And he had a process that he undertook that most of us did not understand because we never worked with him. And he would listen to voices and put people in different groups depending on what he heard. Or he would move them, closer to him or further away from him, again, depending on what he heard. So at those particular rehearsals, Barbara and Miriam, sat together. They're both first sopranos. And every time the sopranos sang, Dr. Thomas would move them a little bit further back. We were in choir pews, and he would move them further back in the pews. And then the sopranos would sing again, and then he would move Miriam and Barbara further back in the pews. And he kept doing this until they were on the back row of the sopranos, and I think there were just the 2 of them back there. Now, I'm observing all of this, and I'm thinking, but doesn't he like the sound of their voice? Why does he keep moving them back? So after Dr. Thomas had finished moving people around in the choir, and then he positioned the choir the way he finally wanted them, he moved Miriam and Barbara to the back row of the soprano singers. And it turned out that he moved them to the back row because their voices were overpowering other sopranos in the group. And this particular concert, there must have been 8 or 9 groups from all over the country who had traveled to Paris to participate in this particular concert. So there were lots of sopranos and tenors and altos and basses. I was very proud of her when she decided to stick with heritage and do music that was a lot more difficult than the typical church music. And I'm very glad that we were able to participate and share this heritage journey in song.